Hello, happy Saturday. I figured my cabinet was the easiest place to put you because I have things to do in the kitchen right now, but I also need to start this vlog. So, this vlog is going to be about the arcs that I have due over the next 2 weeks. Okay, so we're going to start with Catching Feelings by Mary Moore. The first book in that series was Home Run Proposal that I read last summer and I absolutely loved. So great. Lynn Collins is wonderful. I don't know how Reese is going to live up to him, but we'll find out. The second book we'll read is Everyone is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf. This is her newest thriller. It's a locked room thriller, which I have started to learn that I really enjoy. So I'm excited for that. And then there's one that's a little out of my comfort zone, but this person's TikTok antics have just made me a fan already. I don't care if I like the book or not, I'm already a fan. And that is The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wong. They have been showing out. I guess some people had like their early reviews of the book, and I guess they thought they were going into like some tame romantasy, and Justinian's like, girl, there's smut in there. What do you mean? And people are mad about it, which like, por qué? Why? Why are you mad? But also, it's an adult series. It's not like it's marketed as YA or anything, so I don't really understand that. But I have that one in both an e-copy and a ALC from Libro, so I'm thankful for that because as much as I enjoy fantasy once I'm in it, I have a really hard time getting settled into stories when it comes to fantasy, and I often need the audiobook to get me there. So I'm glad I have that at my disposal, and that is what we'll be reading in this vlog. And I can't wait to dive in. But first, I need to get my kitchen sorted because it's a mess right now and it's making my anxiety spike. And then after the kitchen is set, we're going to make some breakfast. And then I'm going to put a sourdough loaf in the oven because I did the work of those yesterday. And now they're just proofing in the fridge, waiting to be baked. And so we'll do that. Kitchen cleanup is done, the oven is preheating, and it's making me question why I thought wearing this long sleeve was a good idea. Ridiculous. I really need to edit a video that needs to go up tomorrow, Sunday evening. But I don't want to right now, if I'm being quite honest. So I think what I'm going to do instead is look at my YouTube watch later list because I've been stacking videos on that all week. Gonna eat my little breakfast Sammy. And then, I need to drink some more water too. I've been so bad about drinking water on the weekends. And I need to do that. I did drink some before I had my coffee, which is a win for me. It's what I need, but I need more. And I'm sweating right now because that oven is on and I'm in a long sleeve. So I'm gonna change, I think, as well. I read the prologue of Catching Feelings last night. I didn't even tell you what this book is about, and honestly, I low-key don't know what it's about. I mean, I know it's a baseball romance, but I loved Home Run Proposal so much that when she announced this book was coming out, I immediately marked it as want to read on Storygraph and Goodreads. When the ARC pop-up went out, or our announcement went out, I immediately signed up. Like, I just knew, Like, I just knew it was going to be for me. It's a sports romance. It's about baseball. And if you don't follow my Instagram, I love softball. It is my favorite sport. I played for 11 years. I am literally going to watch games a lot this weekend. Alabama plays Georgia for game 2 at 11 a.m., so a little over an hour. Like, I'm going to watch. So for there to be a baseball romance, and not only for there to be a baseball romance, but for her to do a good baseball romance, because I have read some that are pretty rough, and I really like hers. I can't wait. I'm so excited. So what I need to do is find the blurb for this book because it's not on Goodreads. It says blurb coming soon. And I'm like, but girl. It also says the book is coming out August 28th, which is categorically untrue. I think she did that just because she wasn't sure when the release date was initially, which, like, fair. But it's definitely coming out on March 22nd now. Okay, here we go. I accidentally hooked up with the guy I despise. A mistake I'd like to forget, except now he's my new roommate. Oh, that's right, forced proximity. I love that. I love that. Reese Landry is Orleans University's arrogant all-star catcher, and I'm the one girl he can't seem to catch. If anything, it only makes him want me more. He's disgustingly rich, stupidly charming, and everyone loves him except me. He says, but then life throws me the ultimate curveball, and he's my new temporary roommate. I thought it was going to be easy keeping my distance. Turns out I was wrong. He's nothing like the cocky rich playboy that I thought he was, and I told myself one more time wouldn't hurt. We promised to keep things casual, no strings attached, but soon lines are blurred, and he somehow becomes my only safe space to land. I remember now. He's like a billionaire. I don't know how. I mean, obviously it's his parents because he's in college. Like, you're not a billionaire in college. But obviously has gobs of money, all-star catcher. And he kind of comes off as like a playboy a little bit. But honestly, I shouldn't even say that he comes off as a playboy because I didn't get those vibes from him. We saw him a little bit in the last book, and I just didn't feel that energy. But the prologue was steamy AF. They see each other in like a country bar, I think. And he goes over to her. She's like dancing with her friends. And he's just like watching her. And he's like, I can't stay away anymore. Like, I'm going over there. So he goes over and they start dancing together. And then the lights kind of go down low. And their chemistry is just... it's very hot. And he says to her, he's like, kiss me. And she's about to, and then the lights kind of come up, and his friend comes over, and he's like, I'm about to leave, like, are y'all too good, or like, do you need a ride? And he's so mad, because he's like, oh, that was my moment, like, I almost had her. And she looks at him, and he's like, you know what, and he's like, we're good, we're gonna stay. But then they do decide to leave, or Viv's like, I'm leaving, and I'm gonna get an Uber, and he's like, you've been drinking, it's late, like, I'm not letting you get in an Uber by yourself, like, let me be a gentleman, I will ride with you, make sure you get home, and then, like, I'll go on my merry way. They're in the Uber, and she's, like, kind of annoyed with him, but kind of not, and he has, like, his hand on, like, her leg or something, or, like, her shoulder at one point, and she kind of, like, leans into that, and then things escalate, and they're just, like, making out in the back of this car, and the Uber driver's like, so am I going to one stop or two? And he leaves it up to her, and she's like, one's fine. And then they hook up. And it is... the mouth on this man. Sir, you're like 21. How do you know this already? But whatever. She's very bratty, and I can tell that there's gonna be a lot of spanking in this book. I can tell. But it's based on his energy and hers. So I just hit chapter 1. We'll see what comes of it. I feel like this is going to be like her dorm floods situation or something. Because she's definitely staying in a dorm. I assume he's living in a house somewhere. And yeah, I don't know. It's too early to tell. I just know that this is going to be really steamy. But I have a feeling that he's going to be just a very doting golden retriever boyfriend. He's going to be that way. Because he doesn't seem like he gives off this bad boy energy a little bit, but I think it's more so just, like, because he's cocky. Because he knows who he is, he knows what he has, and he knows he's a catch. But he wants her. Like, he needs air. Like, it's... from the very first page, it is very obvious that homeboy is sprung. And I think at some point somebody said this was enemies to lovers, and I just feel like this is a contemporary. There are no enemies here. She's not trying to infiltrate, like, his parents, I don't know, whatever thing made them billionaires and, like, take them down or something. He's not going to try to murder her or her family. Like, where's the enemies? There's no enemies. It is strong dislike on her end. And for him, I think it's be mean to me. Like, that makes me hard. Like, I don't think he ever disliked her. So I wouldn't call that. I would just say it's, she can't stand him, and he's smitten with her, is the energy I'm getting. So I'm going to read for a little bit more, watch some YouTube videos, and I will update you when I am further into the book. Done everything and nothing today. It's 3:30, and I feel like I've gotten nothing done, but I look over at my kitchen, and I just picked up my groceries. I baked 2 loaves of bread. One was a flop, one was not. I will enjoy that throughout the week. The one that was a flop, I still kept and cut up. I think I'm going to use for, like, breadcrumbs, and I don't know. I'll find some other uses for it, but it's not getting tossed. It's just not, sandwich quality, if you will. I got my new glasses in, and both pairs fit me incredibly well. I ordered them off of iBuyDirect, so you don't, kind of know. And they're both rather large, but I like that because I feel like I have less blind spots on the side, especially because these are the first pair in a while that actually have like color to the frames, because my last ones were clear. And these are split between clear and black, as you can see. I really like the way these fit. I have a low nose bridge, and they sit with the nose pads on really well. And the other pair are fully plastic, with where the nose, the bridge part is, and those sit perfectly there as well, which is a rarity that never happens to me. And the bars on the back were already curved down a little, so like they fit on my head and they don't slide around. I couldn't ask for better, quite honestly. Downside, nothing to do with the glasses. The glasses are perfect. I had to start over on my knitting project because, well, of a number of things. I just kept getting the feeling when I was looking at the progress of where it was last time that there were weird bars going through, and I realized what was happening is as I was putting it down and picking it back up, I was turning it, which also meant that my half of it had like 19 or 20 rows and the other half had like 20 or 21, and they weren't matching up, which is a problem. So I started over. That also means I haven't had any time to read. I have read part of chapter 1. I now know why Viv is going to need a new place to live. It's holiday break. Her mom seems to not be dealing well with the loss of Viv's dad, her husband. But it also seems, by the way that Viv is writing, like it's been a while since her dad died. So I don't know what the story is there, but Viv, being the angel that she is bailing her mom out of a situation that she shouldn't be, quite honestly, because she's a college student and she should worry about being able to pay her dorm fees, but is instead giving the money to her mother. I can see both sides of it because I have been in a state of such deep despair and depression where I could do nothing for myself and I did need others around me to help. But that's the job. I shouldn't even say job. That's not the job of your child, though. If anything, you would think that she would reach out to, like, other friends or family, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't have the best thoughts about her mom right now, but I don't think I'm supposed to, based on the tone of this. And then Reese is throwing a New Year's Eve party. The couple from the first book, Lane and Hallie, are in the midst of FaceTiming with Viv, saying, like, how much they miss seeing her. Or really, it's Hallie who misses her, and Hallie's begging her to come to Reese's for the New Year's Eve party. And she's like, I know you hate him, but like I promise to keep distance between you two. Like, just come hang out. So we'll see if she goes to that party, because at some point he needs to find out that she doesn't have a place to live this next semester, and for that to become the roommate situation. So I'm going to keep knitting up this work. The downside of reading an ARC-only vlog is that I don't have an audiobook for this. And it actually was making me think maybe I should switch to I forget the title, something in the Emperor and the Palace, the Justinian Wong fantasy, because that one I do have the audio for, and I really want to knit. I can feel it in my bones. My hands need something to do. I've got a teensy bit of anxiety hanging out in like, instead of it just being at the low, 2, 3 that it's always at, it's creeping up to like a 6 or a 7, and I need somewhere to put my energy right now. So I'm not going to stop knitting, even though I do want to read. And I'll just deal with that right now. You know what, actually? I just got my gooseneck holder back from my grandpa. He had surgery in December, and I lent it to him so that way he could put his iPad or his Kindle in it and be able to put it up there instead of having to, like, hold it and like look down, because he had a back surgery, so it was really important for him to keep good posture during recovery, and he's still dealing with it, but he's not using that anymore. He gave it back to me, and I think in theory I could put that up here and be able to read that way. Maybe I'm about to hack this, actually. Well, I'm glad I had that thought out loud, because it's hard to do that with the tripod, but it worked out. So now I can knit and read at the same time. I didn't bring the remote over because I can't do all three. I can't do a hands-free reading with the remote to click and knit at the same time, but I can prop this up and then just turn when I need to. So I think I'm going to do that. Hello, happy Sunday. This is, I think, the first update you're getting from me since I told y'all I was going to read Catching Feelings by Maren Moore yesterday, and I finished that. I couldn't stop reading once I started. I spent all morning editing the video that's going up in like an hour and getting the thumbnail out of the way. Had to take my dog to the groomer and just do all those little things, and now I finally get to just like sit and just be. So let me tell you a little bit about Catching Feelings. Where we left off, I believe, was me telling you that I realized why Viv had to find a new place to live. And that storyline was handled so well. A content warning for parental death due to a drunk driver. So we learned that that's how Viv's dad passes away. And it's only been 2 years, roughly, since that happened. So I can kind of understand her mom's state a little better. I still felt the way I did initially, where I was like, man, I really wish that she had found someone other than her daughter to lean on in that way. But I don't think either of them realized how much she was leaning on her until she left for school. This story was handled with so much care. Like, don't get me wrong. This book is very smut forward. I would say it's 60% smut. And I mean like chapters long smut scenes. Multiple chapters in a row where most of the chapter is smut. However, this story still has a very solid emotional backbone to it, and it was perfect. I loved every second of it. I'm giving this a very strong 5 stars because it was that good mix where you're like, this is good. Like, it's a 50-50 plot smut situation, and I really liked that. Reese is definitely going to be up there for Book Boyfriend of the Year for sure. Really enjoyed getting to see him. There were a couple of times where Viv puts him in his place because he's not intentionally trying to throw his money around, but he sees it more as, this is the thing I have that I can fix a problem with. And not because like he just throws money at things to fix problems, but because he loves taking care of the people in his life, and that's one of the ways he knows that he's able to. But watching him learn how to love her in a way that makes sense to her and for her was great. She did get to a point where she would let him kind of spoil her sometimes, but she also would tell him sometimes, like, I just need you to hear me. I need you to listen to me. And by the end, he saw her like no one else did, and it was so sweet. Just so sweet. He didn't really have any real conflict throughout the story. Like, Viv was his conflict. And sometimes I don't like that because it makes the character feel very like one-dimensional. But he didn't feel one-dimensional to me. I wouldn't say I know who he is super thoroughly, but he doesn't feel like, I feel like I could put some traits to him. I think what really helped is he has a very close bond with his younger sister, and she like FaceTimes him weekly, and not even weekly, like almost daily. And there's a point where he introduces her to Viv over FaceTime, and then they meet in person at an event later, and it was really sweet to see that relationship and for him to have no problems opening that up to Viv. And he's always been super open throughout the book. And so I feel like he was really there to teach Viv that there wasn't only one way to go through life, because she's very much been in survival mode, and for good reason. As you read, you will understand exactly why she is the way she is. But it was great for her to have this place where she could kind of test the waters and see if she could honestly have fun again. And it was really sweet. There's a point where he's doing things that scare the shit out of him for her, and I absolutely loved that. He was like, I'm willing to be so scared I want to shit my pants, but it's putting a smile on your face if we're going to do it. And I don't know, there's something about that was great. But I also loved that they both had boundaries. Their relationship at the beginning is very, like I said, enemies to lovers is not, I feel like that's not an appropriate thing, but it's very snippy, lots of like quippy one-liners, but they're kind of barbed sometimes. And there is one point where in the very beginning where he's telling Viv, he's like, listen, he's like, that's fine when we're out there, but we live together in this house now. And he's like, I do not thrive in hostility. Like, I can't have that in my home. Like, I can't. And she's immediately like, okay, fine. And she still rags on him, and he still rags on her, and they call each other out on their shit. But it's not with the intent of being like malicious or anything. I want to tell you more, but this book isn't out yet, and I feel like I've already said not super spoilery things, but more of the story than I kind of wanted to. But I did want to make a point about how her dad passed, just because so many people were screaming about this book and how much they love it, but I haven't really seen anyone talk about the content warnings yet for that, because I do know that that's a sensitive topic. In fact, Marin Moore, the author, put on her Instagram last week that storyline's really close to her heart, because she lost her mom when she was 3 weeks old in that same manner, and just like never knew her mom. And I don't know, that hit me really hard. And she wrote out like this beautiful, I almost called it a caption. It is a caption because there's photos and stuff, but she just wrote out this beautiful note about her experience with that, and just so you can kind of get an idea of who's telling that story. So I feel like it was handled with care. And I also feel like her mom's storyline was handled with care as well. There wasn't any point where she was villainized, even by Reese. Like, there were moments where he was upset that Viv had to be the adult at times and had to do the things that she was doing. But he never, like, shat on her mom for being in the state she was in, which I thought was really important. And was great for the fact that he's like supposed to be like 21 or 22. Like, he's a senior in college. And not to say that you can't be emotionally have a good EQ at that point, but a lot of people don't. I didn't. I definitely didn't, at least not to this level. So I really enjoyed that story, and I can't wait for the rest of y'all to read it. If you are watching this at this point and you have read it, slide in my DMs on Instagram. I would love to chat about it. I absolutely love this book. There are plenty of moments where I was full on blushing, kicking my feet, giggling, having the greatest time. Toe curling smut. Just, it's a good time. You guys are going to like Reese Landry, let me tell you. What else do I have to update you on? Oh, I got this book from The Hive, which is the influencer group at HTP. I'm really excited for this, actually, because it has type 1 diabetes rep. You see that little Dexcom? At least I think it's a Dexcom. I don't have diabetes, but I have people that I love that have T1D, and so it's always cool to see it in a book in a way. At least I haven't read this yet, but my hope is that it's represented well and isn't treated like the person's like broken or like can't live their life or things. Because obviously there are challenges that come with having diabetes, and if you aren't fortunate enough to have one of these little wearable situations and like have a pump, it's hard to manage. But so many people are starting to get these and be able to have them regularly and are able to go do things that they wouldn't have been before, because they would have been restricted by, you know, having a refrigerator nearby with insulin. And you still do to an extent, but I think you guys get the spirit of what I'm saying. But I'm just excited to see some more books with type 1 diabetes rep come out and hopefully have good reps. So I'm excited to read this. This is called The Happiness Blueprint. Clara, who always thought of herself a little different, a sneaker in a world full of kitten heels and polished boots, is feeling a disconnect these days. She has type 1 diabetes, currently works in a dead-end job, and is in a desperate need for a change. When her dad falls ill, Clara begrudgingly agrees to help run his small construction company while he recovers, even though it means moving back home and pushing the boundaries of her comfort zone to the extreme. Alex has been a shell of himself since his brother died in an accident. He's unemployed, has bills piling up, and is distant from friends and family. His therapist is encouraging him to keep things manageable by setting up a calendar, checking off tasks each day, and looking for work to help him get back on his feet. When an ad pops up for a carpenter position at a small construction company, he jumps at the chance to take a step forward. Claire and Alex's stories unfold through a series of miscommunications in this clever and witty novel from debut author Ali Zetterberg. That's about finding acceptance and even love in the unexpected places. So I'm excited to dive into this. I don't love the miscommunication trope, but I think it's going to be okay. Sometimes in situations like these where each character, you know what it is? The reason I often don't like it is because I feel like sometimes it's used in times where it doesn't make sense. So when you have two characters like this who have very big things going on in their lives that have nothing to do with each other, there's more room for miscommunication in a way that feels realistic. Where I don't like it is when it's used as a crutch and you're just like, neither of those people have anything else going on. Y'all can talk to each other. But this feels like the perfect setup for the right kind of miscommunication trope usage. So I'm hopeful with that. And I was going to say, another book that I know that's coming out with type 1 diabetes rep is the new Chloe Lease. It's the last book in the Bergman Brothers series, which I really should do a better job about being prepared with these things. But I wasn't really thinking about it until I saw the little Dexcom meter on that girl's arm. It is called, is it Always and Forever? Only and Forever. This one is, I believe, Vigo's story. He is the last of the Bergman brothers. And I love Vigo. He's one of those side characters that you get excited when he pops up on the page. So now that we're finally getting his story, I know we're in for a good time. He loves reading historical romance, and like, how can you not love a character who loves reading historical romance? It says, Viggo Bergman, hopeless romantic, is thoroughly weary of waiting for his happily ever after. But between opening a romance bookstore, running a romance book club, and coaching kids soccer, and adopting a household of pets, just maybe he's overcommitted himself. Viggo's chaotic life has made finding his forever love seem downright improbable. Enter Tallulah Clark. I love that name. Chilly, cynic with a massive case of writer's block, Tallulah needs help with her thriller's romantic subplot. Viggo needs another pair of hands to keep his store afloat, so they agree to swap skills and cohabitate for convenience, his romantic expertise to revive her book, her organizational prowess to salvage his store. They hardly get along and they couldn't be more different, but who says roommate coworkers need to be friends? As they share a home and a life, Tallulah and Viggo discover a connection that challenges everything they believe about love, and reveals the plot twist they never saw coming. Happily ever after is here already, right under their roof. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I am actually behind and need to read the book that came out before this, which I believe is Iggy's book, the sister, or the youngest sister, I should say, because their older sister was book like 3 or 4. And I intentionally waited because I knew, number one, that I would be sad that I would have to wait a long time to read the next one. But I also knew, like, the end was coming, as sad as that makes me. So I think what I'm going to do is wait until it releases and then read them back to back and just have a good old Bergman time. So I am going to eat my dinner. I picked up Chipotle because that just sounded like a good idea. And I've been doing dishes all weekend because I've been cooking for myself all weekend, which is great, but it's annoying. And so I decided I didn't want to tonight. So I'm going to eat that. I've been watching this Apple TV Plus show about Godzilla and like the making of Monarch. So if you're into those movies at all, there's a show on Apple TV. It's fictional. It's not like how they made the movies. It's called Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and it's so fun. I'm having the best time watching this, and I've been knitting some, as you can see in the background, getting the collar of my sweater back together again. So that's my plan for the evening. I started the first couple of pages of Everyone is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf last night, and I'm excited to read that, but my brain right now is like, girl, please take a break. So I'm going to dissociate in front of the TV for a little bit, eat my dinner and do that. And then maybe tonight I'll get in some more pages, and then tomorrow I'll tell you about what the book's about and give you a real update. Hi, it's been a few days since I have turned this camera on and given you an update, so I thought I'd do that real quick. I am halfway through The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wong. I've been listening to the audiobook while I've been knitting, and it has been a phenomenal experience. This story follows it follows 2 souls across 3 timelines. I think that's the best way to explain it, because you're in 4 BCE following a ambitious courtier who is trying to seduce an emperor. Then you also see them, I think, in the late 1700s as a modest innkeeper who gets a weird tenant and is experiencing some strange things with that person, but also has these moments of feeling like they know them or that they've seen them before, but the way this person comes about, they're too young, like there's no way, I don't know how this would have happened. And then the third and final timeline is present day. It is a college student who is just, maybe not just figured out that he's gay, but he's just starting to openly be gay, I guess. I don't know where I was going that was mentally. I'm sorry, I just keep getting these notifications. Yeah, so the third timeline is following a college student who he's just come out to, I think, his sister. He has an experience with another college student in a library, and it's kind of like a gay awakening for him a little bit. I think he always knew he was gay, like he mentions that a little bit, but he had never openly like seeked out gay spaces or anything like that. And at one point he's at a circuit party and he runs into this person who he felt like he's met before, and they just kind of can't shake that feeling and they keep running into each other. So all of these timelines are just melding together, and it is such a good time. And of course my battery chose that moment to die. So as I was saying, it's 3 timelines, but the way they're handled is like suspense driven in a way. There's a clear mystery going on, right? If you're trying to figure out, are the 2 people in the 1740s and present day the same people you see in 4 BCE when it's the courtesan and the emperor? If they are, how the heck does this work? What is going on? There's also this mystery thriller element to the 1740 timeline that's going on. And I haven't quite figured out what that is yet, but the way Justinian Wong is weaving these timelines together, and when he chooses to cut off the chapter and move to the next one, because it is what I do like is it's a succinct 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 telling of the timeline. And so you're not ever bouncing around in a way where you're not sure when you're going to come back to the next timeline. You know when the chapter ends, if you're in 1740, that you're coming to present day. And you know when present day ends that you're going to go back to 4 BCE, because they keep that same 4 BCE, 1740 present day timeline order. But things are building now. I'm halfway through. A lot is happening, and I honestly, I won't say I can't put it down. What I have been doing, though, is being very strategic about when I pick it up, because I want to be able to be just, like, locked in. And I'm going to do the next couple rounds of my knitting project where, like, I need to really look at the directions and then get to a point where I'm just in a groove. And as soon as I'm in that groove, audiobooks go right back on. I also, while I was waiting in line this morning for some breakfast tacos, was reading some more pages of Everyone Is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf. And that story's picking up too. Things are popping off. So in that one, to remind you a little bit, that one is a kind of locked room thriller where these 5 contestants are brought to this mansion that's partially remodeled in the Hollywood Hills, I believe, to compete for $10 million on this reality show that's essentially a Big Brother-esque live show, but almost with like a Be Real element to it, because we just find out that instead of it being like The Bachelor or something where you know it's pre-recorded to a degree and you're going to sit down at 7 p.m. every Monday night and watch it, instead you get these weird alerts that are like something's going down in the house at any given time. This could come at 3 a.m., it could come at 3 p.m., it could be at 8 p.m., and then people just tune in and like there's like live chatting and stuff that happens. It's supposed to be wild. The actual actions of the live show haven't happened yet. We've just been introduced to all 5 contestants. Some of them know each other. One of the people who was a part of putting the show together, the 5th contestant, shows up, and it's someone from her past. And she's the one who sent the invites out to everybody, but she thinks that the person who's the money and the location behind it did it. And that person's like, why the fuck would I bring that person here? I didn't do this. You're the only one who had the ability to invite people. Like, what kind of joke are you playing? Like, I'll deal with you later. But that person who shows up is a very traumatic part of that person's past. So, like, it's very clear that they would not have done that to themselves. So now that's an added mystery on top of it. I also keep coming back to the prologue, and the way this was set up was like as if you were one of the viewers and you're watching this moment go down. That is just sensational. It is crazy. It is high stakes, and you're wondering what's going to happen. And then it cuts off and we start meeting the different characters like as they're at home. And so we don't really know what's going on just yet, but we feel all of the stakes for the most part. I shouldn't say all of the stakes. We're starting to feel the stakes for sure for 2 of the characters. And then we've been introduced to four other ones. One of the one people we know a lot of the backstory about is one of the contestants, and then the other one is now the host of the show. She wasn't supposed to be initially. And so we feel the stakes for them, but we don't really know what's going on for the other contestants yet. So shit is building. It's just slowly building. So I also want to read some of that this weekend, but I don't know how I'm going to do that because I only have the physical copy. So I think what I'm going to do as a plan, because I don't want to do too much too fast. I think what I'm going to do is knit those couple of rows like I talked about, and then listen to the rest of The Emperor and the Endless Palace, give you an update. And then I think we're going to spend Sunday reading Everyone is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf, because I will be finishing both of these this weekend. I don't want to take them into the next week. They're both so good, and I want to know what happens as soon as possible. Hello, happy Sunday. I am so tired, but I just needed to come on here and tell y'all that I finished The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wong earlier this morning, or afternoon, I should say. It was so good. Oh, it was so good. If you get the opportunity to read this book and you can get the audiobook, I can't recommend it enough. Number one, because then you can know how to pronounce all of the names, because that was something I was mentally struggling with while physically reading it. Two, it just flows so well that you can just get lost in the story. And three, I absolutely loved the audiobook narration. It was so great. Made following the story super easy. I think that eventually would have happened for me if I physically read it, but as I was trying to finish this book, it was at a time where I just didn't want to touch my Kindle at all. Had such a hard time doing that, so I was thankful that I had an audio copy available to me. I'm giving this book 5 stars, and it's interesting. I was looking at some of the Goodreads ratings. The Goodreads rating for this book right now is a 3.7, and I can't tell if some of that's from early review bombing, because there was a contingency of TikTokers that were mad about the amount of smut in this romantasy book, which I don't really understand, other than the fact that it's a romantasy book that doesn't center straight whiteness, so maybe that's why. But honestly, I feel like there wasn't a ton in here, and in the parts where there was a lot, it wasn't gratuitous. And I can't explain this one scene to you because it would be a major spoiler, but just know that it's not... You don't suddenly leave your romantasy book and then end up in an erotica. There's metaphor built into that scene, so I don't really understand people's qualms about it. And because this story follows 3 different timelines, most of the sex scenes that happen in this book happen in 4 BCE or 1740, and Justinian Wong chooses to use language from those times and from East Asian culture, I should say. Maybe not present day, but I think what they would have used if it was 4 BCE or 1740, if that makes sense. And so there was one point when it was first happening where it took me halfway through the scene to realize that was what was happening because of the language choices used. And then once I clocked that and then it was happening later, I was like, oh, this is kind of a fun way for this to happen. And as a person who reads a lot of smut, there was nothing gratuitous about any of that stuff, so I don't really understand. But I also don't read a ton of fantasy, and I have seen some commentary about the, to some people may seem weird line of thrill or suspense that comes into this book. But again, if you're paying attention through the whole thing, I don't think it's surprising at all. But I do think there are some parts of it that can feel a little rushed or not fully fleshed out. But I don't feel like it took away from the story as a whole, which is why I still felt really comfortable giving it 5 stars. And, yeah, I don't really know what else to say because everything I liked about the book, I can't really share because it would be a spoiler. I will say it does a really good job of balancing, East Asian folklore, history, and, the presence of those things throughout the story without it feeling like you're being beaten over the head. I didn't feel like I needed to have advanced knowledge of these things. I didn't feel like I needed to have taken courses on these things. He made it very approachable and very easy. And the way things are explained does not feel like you're getting a giant info dump, which I really appreciated. It just felt like I was just a part of the story and I was just plopped into the main character's body and got to learn right along with him. And I did really like that. I was worried about how following 3 timelines, and not only 3, but 2 of which were nowhere near my present timeline, was going to be, but it was really easy to stay engaged and to follow along. So I can't recommend it enough. If you are looking to branch out and you don't read a ton of fantasy, I think this is a good one. Again, I would do the audiobook. I think if you are a person who loves fantasy, I think you can still like this. I just think that you have to go into it in the right mindset because it does a lot of things that feel maybe kind of basic, and then some things that feel like a departure from the genre because, again, it's not written by a straight white male author, and that's just what comes with the territory. But I personally think that that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with if you're like a straight Brandon Sanderson style, fantasy reader, or some of the other popular male authors in the genre. Like, they definitely have their place. There are things that I have enjoyed personally, but it is nice to get a very different perspective and to follow that perspective through the story and have that be the majority voice, not only for the main character but for the side characters as well. So I'm gonna leave it at that. It's Sunday evening and I'm kind of like winding down. Got a little bit of a head cold situation going on, so I'm gonna take some medicine and climb into bed and hopefully get in a few more chapters of Everyone is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf. I've had such a hard time wanting to pick that book up. Once I do, I have a very good time with it, but I just haven't been in the thriller mood. But I really need to get that book finished. So I'm going to make myself read a couple chapters of that before I go back and read some more of the football romance that I was reading as like a little palate cleanser after that fantasy. I do find that I need that a little bit just to kind of like get out of the headspace. So I am going to read both of those things tonight before bed and then hopefully have an update for you tomorrow. I owe you guys the biggest update because I finished this today. It was so good. It was so fun. I'm giving it 4 stars. I'll explain that rating in a second. So, I don't even know if I told you what this is about. 5 contestants got a mystery email inviting them onto a show that I would liken to being a cross between Big Brother and the Be Real social media app. And what I mean by that is, at random moments for the American audience, or any audience really, but it was geared towards Americans. At any moment, you would get a notification on your phone that there was a live stream of, what's the name of the show? One Lucky Winner. And you would watch them do challenges. Some of them would be physical, like obstacle courses and things. Some of them were puzzle-based. Some of them were spin the bottle-esque, but with a pew-pew instead of a bottle. This was so chaotic. If you enjoy a very page-turner thriller, you don't know who to trust, everyone seems like they're lying to you, this is for you. I was reading the ebook copy and I was kind of having a hard time with it, partly just because of the formatting. And then I realized today's release day. So I hopped on the Spotify this morning, grabbed the audiobook, and listened to the rest of it while I was working today. And holy crap. This is great. I think if you are a seasoned thriller reader, this could in theory be a little underwhelming for you. I've taken a break from the genre and I think that's done me well. This is definitely one of those that I would recommend as a widely recommendable thriller. There's nothing unapproachable about this. You could give this to your mom. You could give this to your aunt, your grandma, whoever. You could give it to a coworker. And there isn't really anything in here that you'd be like, ooh, maybe, don't judge me too hard for this or whatever. It's really approachable and I like that. The reason I'm giving it 4 stars is it felt like everything had an answer and it got tidied up in this cute little bow. And that sometimes is underwhelming, but I think because of the events of everything else that went on in this house during this reality show, that was necessary. Because I think if it had been drawn out longer in the 3rd act, when everything has crescendoed and you're just trying to pick up the pieces of what's going on, it would have been difficult. And dare I say there might have been a happy ending at the end of this? Wild. I had such a great time. I will be recommending this to everyone I know, especially if you're a kind of person who maybe doesn't always pick up thrillers, but when you're in the airport or you're going on like a little vacation or you're going to be poolside for the weekend and you want something, this is quick and easy. It's such a good time. So with that being said, those are all the books for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and dealing with my crazy amount of times between updates, but hopefully you got some good recommendations from this video. If you wouldn't mind giving it a like, share it with a buddy, subscribe, do all those fun YouTube things, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye.